There's an aspect of school that made it even worse, and that's the websites. They never seemed to know what kind of website to put us on, so they put us on the only ones that they could find, and yeah, they might have screwed us over a little bit, but yeah, if you've been here since the beginning, you'll probably remember some of these videos. Hope you enjoy. Rage, rage, rage. That's all I feel when I think about this website called iReady. If you've never had to experience the medieval torture method that is iReady, consider yourself extremely lucky, because me and thousands of others have had to endure this sorry excuse of a learning website. What's crazy is I haven't had to do this website in years, but the scars are still fresh in my mind. iReady, like a ton of other learning websites, use repetitive and quite frankly boring methods of teaching, if you can call it that. If you've never had to do it, iReady is pretty much split into two sections. One is the diagnostic and the other is the lessons. If you're one of the lucky people who never had to participate in this hellish experience, the iReady diagnostic is something I can only describe as being the single most boring, unnecessary, and irritating thing to ever exist. Not only does this often take more than an hour to complete, this test is quite literally made to have students get about half the questions right and about half wrong. It's not about even trying to test what you know and if you can apply it well. If a student answers correctly, the next question is automatically harder, and the inverse is also true, with each question getting easier for each one answered incorrectly, which by itself doesn't sound all that bad. But imagine you're a second grader completing 8th grade level questions. Mind you, all you did was get a question right, and now you're 6th grade levels ahead somehow. So, to encounter, at a 2nd grade level, algebra problems when I just learned how to do fractions is insane. On the other side of that, being an 8th grader completing 2nd grader work is crazy. It almost feels spiteful, like the website is calling you dumb and slapping you in the face with the wrong answer, or rewarding you and giving you collegiate level work. Despite being the way the system was designed, it caused so much anxiety and frustration. What's crazy is that the parents and teachers can't even see the students' exact answers, which completely leaves them in the dark, making the test obsolete. Personally, I think these websites were created as a way to measure students not as people, but as metrics. I remember how much emphasis was often placed on these diagnostics. They were even used to dictate how students were categorized in the classrooms, which created a social hierarchy and unprecedented stress that no doubt contributed to the deterioration of some students' mental health. Now that I'm thinking back on it, our generation got done so bad. We got placed in the middle of a technological revolution and had to experience them working the kinks out of these softwares. Mind you, schools are still using this website to this day. Next, I want to talk about the lessons part of this site. These are the worst lessons I've ever had to endure as a student. They genuinely serve zero purpose, as when you complete the diagnostic, it just throws you into a pool of assignments to complete. Every time I completed one of these lessons, I couldn't do anything but stare off into space, especially because your teacher will give the class an iReady weekly minute goal. I vividly remember zoning out on multiple occasions due to this. I'm not sure if it's been updated or even given a revamp, but I know it was terrible when I had to do it. It just kind of feels like a lazy ploy to encourage students to assimilate rather than actually taking the time to cater to each student. Because, you know, who wants to do that? Instead of actually teaching us, they put us on these websites that teach you nothing and pretty much just take a bit of your soul with each passing minute. Not only that, but the mascots for the websites are just interesting. Despite more than likely having the funding for actual animations and genuine thought and effort, the mascots are just soulless. I couldn't imagine having to look at those characters past elementary school, let alone middle school or high school. For anyone out there who has to complete iReady and you're in high school, here's a moment of silence. I genuinely feel for you on a personal level. A tool that is used all across the country looks like it was drawn in Microsoft Paint. It just feels lazy, and as kids, it's easy to tell that this is just something meant to take up our time. Basically, it's used as a substitute for actual education, which most definitely contributed to the iPad kid epidemic we have nowadays. Now, given that we all know this is a terrible experience, why in the world has nothing been done to change this fact? Well, that's simply because they could care less. Do you think the people that made this website have their kids doing this? I'd say there's no way they do. I don't know, maybe instead of trying to be lazy and cut corners, maybe instead there should be an emphasis placed on education. The literacy rate is quietly dropping and classrooms are starting to look like war zones. Hey, someone had to say it. As students, we deserve to be given the opportunity to prosper and achieve success, not split into categories and given these repetitive assignments as if they genuinely help us. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this topic. I know it's been highly requested and I really enjoyed making this one. Let me know what other websites you want to see criticized. Go Guardian, Securely, Land School. I hate them. I hate them all. That's it. That's the video. I mean, what more can I say about these deplorable excuses for safety precautions? I can't tell y'all how many times I had a YouTube video assigned to me by my teacher and I couldn't access the video at all. I get redirected and nothing, absolutely nothing but an error has occurred on my screen. And I'm just sitting there staring at my computer like this because what do you mean? I then ask my teacher and they just look at me like this because they don't know what to do either. So now we're both just staring at each other looking stupid, wondering what to do. My point being, sites like Go Guardian are highly invasive and anxiety inducing. They make you feel more like a prisoner than a student. It's like you're constantly up under a microscope, never knowing when you're going to see that irritating message. If you're supposed to be cultivating a learning environment, why treat the kids like prisoners? Again, I know monitoring is important, but there's a limit to what's necessary. It's the same routine, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 36 weeks out of the year. And for all of those days, if you didn't know, it's 252. Students are made to sit in prison cells disguised as classrooms, with the added bonus of being watched constantly. Your teacher is able to just close whatever tabs you're using with the click of a button, leaving you completely helpless and at the mercy of your teacher, which actually brings up a marvelous point. Teachers are not always right. No, rather, adults are not always right. But some adults forget that they're human too, and use that to boss their students around. Some teachers have used sites like these to taunt students and just make life miserable for every student they come across. Not every teacher is like that, but there are enough that it's an issue. I said earlier that the internet is a weird place. Blocking some things is absolutely necessary, but it's often taken way too far. Imagine being bored out of your mind with no thought-stimulating lessons and you try to escape just to be redirected and told the site is restricted. Or when I said the YouTube video for an assignment would be blocked, it wasn't just YouTube. A lot of sites that feature videos were completely blocked. This does absolutely nothing but disrupt the already jacked up learning environment. Now the class is staring at the teacher, wondering what to do next, all to load up a game of Kahoot and that be blocked too. Let me put on my thinking cap for a second. All this teaches is autonomy. It teaches you to be obedient and a model student, or rather a worker. You gotta shut up and just do what your teacher tells you, even if you're right. That's the cycle of the world, because guess what? Those same teachers have to listen to the person above them. So the cycle just continues over and over and over again, leading to the dilemma we've got right now. Now here, peep game and lock in. There are a couple of things that distinguish Go Guardian from sites like Securely and Land School. Go Guardian is focused around micromanagement. It's to have nearly complete control over a student's device. Securely instead scans your typing pattern and even monitors the URL of the website you're typing in. It's able to send a weekly report to your parent's phone. I've got a personal vendetta against this one. Securely is probably the one that feels the most invasive for me. It just feels different. I don't know, it's kind of creepy. Like I've been home before and I'd see that notification telling me that a class session is active. Imagine the pure utter shock and dismay that clouded my mind in that instance. This was after school, mind you. It feels like there's an eye on you 24/7. Ugh, that gives me the creeps. Land School is the oldest of the three, being nearly 40 years old by February of this year. Land School offers a ridiculous amount of control. You can just completely block the entire internet except for a specific page. It's literally set up like a surveillance room. That prison feeling? Yeah, Land School, that's the embodiment of prison. Overall, I'd say that the sites themselves aren't the problem. It's how these sites are used. I'd actually go as far as to say that iReady and sites like these work together in perfect harmony. One is used to shut us up and the other is to make sure we stay focused. This reflects the bigger issue of assimilation present in the education system. You can't treat every student the same and expect the same results. Not only is that not realistic, but it's incredibly foolish. You can only throw the same rock at the same fish before they fight back. We're humans, not robots. Not yet, at least, looking at how they treat us. Students are not statistics, and there seems to be a serious lapse in judgment somewhere. iReady is all about statistics. The same statistics they use to categorize us like we're data. Almost feels like they're prepping us to be the next generation of workers. But hey, what do I know? But yeah, that's the video, y'all. Let me know what you're thinking right now in the comments if you made it this far. And until next time. School, the place where a bunch of random kids come together and become lifelong friends. This is where kids learn critical skills like confrontation and even basic communication. And while all that may be true, I hated it with a passion. Don't get me wrong, there were some alright aspects of school. The food was alright, I guess. And not gonna lie, I can't think of anything positive to say. First up, I excel. If you don't know, first of all, please takes this time to consider yourself highly favored as well as being astoundingly lucky, as thousands others have suffered at the hands of this despicable website, including me. I could probably write an entire essay about why I hate IXL. IXL specifically. You're telling me I have to complete a series of questions, get them right consecutively, and get over an 85% to get a grade for it? Now that might not sound that bad, but imagine you're completing your assignment at about 92% and feeling great about the experience. You're almost done and you'll finally be able to go to sleep. Well, I hate to break it to you. You're not going to bed anytime soon. You get one question wrong and now you're down to 85%, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but by some grandiose stroke of misfortune, you get another question wrong. Now you're at about 78%. At this point, you can feel your heart beating faster and your fingers getting tense as you grit your teeth in frustration. Now that I'm thinking about it, this has to be a torture method. Actually, I don't know how this is legal. All of a sudden, you're down an entire 33%, your hands are cramping, and you're getting so frustrated you can barely even sit still. I don't know about y'all, but that's about when I shut the computer down and go to bed. Ain't nothing, and I mean nothing, worth my sanity. Next up, we have anxiety. Pretty much everyone experiences this. Imagine waking up, a smile on your face, pure joy. You brush your teeth and get dressed for the day, and all of a sudden, you feel it. You feel the all too familiar cramp in your abdomen. Dread it, run from it, but you're not walking out of that door on time. Seriously, you're not about to tell me that this or something similar has never happened to you. Either I'm gonna assume you're lying or you're just not human. Anxiety comes in many shapes and forms. Sometimes it'll make you quite literally lose the ability to speak. Other times it can completely make you shut down. Imagine being in class. Everything is going well. Then you hear the words, "Class, today I'll be drawing popsicle sticks from a bucket." When I tell you, my heart would sink to the depths of my stomach. Not only is it 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, but your teacher, your amazing 9th grade algebra teacher who doesn't grade on a bell curve, nor do they allow any makeup assignments, decides to graciously and masterfully ruin your entire morning. You sit there praying and pleading to whoever you believe in that you won't get chosen. Even though you know deep down, out of the 25 students in the class, you'll be the first one drawn. Oh, and don't let you be soft-spoken or slightly introverted. All eyes are on you, and you find yourself in the middle of a QuickTime event. I don't think anyone really understands how annoying being caught in a situation like that is. You quite literally won't be able to say anything without being judged. Next up, packets. The thing about packets is that the frustration usually has nothing to do with the actual content itself. No, it's actually not the 100 question review you've been given 2 days to complete. Rather, it's the packet itself. The whole thing. The whole 30-page abomination sitting on your desk. I gotta say, man, the sheer amount of paper that schools waste on any given day has to be like some sort of crime. There's no way we have enough trees for this. Anybody like worried about the political and economical, state of the world right now? It's just me. 9 times out of 10, packets consist of a bunch of random and useless information that you're probably not going to use. There's levels to this too. Elementary school was a breeze. You had no need to cheat because the packets were basically coloring books. Middle school was light work too. Not much to complain about. Then there's high school. Algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, calculus. These are the 4 horsemen of high school math. And when I tell you they will absolutely throw a packet in your face and call it a day, mind you, you just learned how to solve a function and now you have to solve about 50 more with a side of adversity. Go ahead and clear that schedule for the foreseeable future. Extracurriculars? A job? A life? No. See, that's not a part of the contract. There's just something disgusting about packets. They suck all around and serve absolutely zero purpose. Coming up next, we have essays. Essays are the bane of my existence. Look, this is coming from someone who actually enjoys writing. Writing essays might be the single most mundane and non-thought stimulating activity I've ever had the displeasure in completing. Do you know how you take the fun out of something? Well, you put a grade behind it that weighs 40 points. To anyone out there that actually enjoys writing curated and hyper detailed essays, great for you. I'll reread that prompt 10 times expecting an interesting subject to talk about. Whole time I'm already 3 days behind on starting it in the first place. Honestly, I envy those that are able to create essays like that with little to no trouble. And with AI being out for the public to use, it may seem like the easiest option. In reality, using AI, if you actually enjoy the subject, completely takes your passion from it. You no longer want to complete the work. AI is definitely a powerful tool, but it's not without its cons. There's something about not having to constantly revise and perfect your work. It leaves you with a feeling of freedom. Anyways, that's the video, y'all. I think that's a good place to stop. If you want more, just let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. School, the place where you learn things like teamwork and problem-solving skills. This is the place you spend a good chunk of your childhood, teenage years, and young adulthood, yet they can't even have the decency to make the experience enjoyable. For obvious reasons, everyone decided they wanted to create a learning website that is so beneficial to the kids. This is the most revolutionary, cutting-edge technology yet. We have created a software that's able to track the individual blinks that each student takes. Phew. Tough crowd. We also have this feature where you can change the color of your highlighter. Anyways, a lot of the learning websites that have been created are painfully abysmal and lackluster. So today, I want to talk about one of the worst I've seen in a while. XtraMath. XtraMath, similarly to many other learning websites, uses methods such as repetition and even a video format we've seen in sites like BrainPop. See, sites like these are what we call edtech. As the name implies, edtech refers to technology that is meant to be used to improve learning and teaching, which we see often doesn't really work out that well, but I digress. But what makes this website different is honestly something I don't think I've ever seen before. Instead of being advertised as a traditional learning website, XtraMath instead uses a system designed around fluency, not understanding. Upon further research, I found out that XtraMath uses a set time limit to encourage speed and mastery of a subject, which you may think isn't that bad. But what if I told you that these assignments could be set to limits as fast as 6 or even 3 seconds? I know you remember having to answer questions on the spot in front of class, and that feeling of anxiety you get, that unending pressure that only gets lifted when all eyes are off of you. Well, in this case, the eyes are the timers. Even though nobody is there to actually look at you, the intense pressure of that 3-second timer is crushing. Not to mention that when you get something wrong, the system will play a video telling you that you got it wrong and that your teacher is being contacted. Let me also say that these aren't always easy questions. Imagine rather than getting 9 times 6, something easy, you get 44 times 73, and you have to answer in 3 seconds or you bet you're about to see that man in that red polo. That's the type of pressure that's introduced at such a young age. Now, don't get me wrong. Repetition and understanding is important. Sometimes you have to do things multiple times to get it to stick, but 44 times 73 in under 3 seconds? In your head? Mind you, a lot of the time, tables are stopped around 12, which makes sense because after you learn all of those, you're more likely to begin using a calculator for most assignments rather than mental math, which is why I'm so appalled you can even receive a question to answer that fast. I know for a fact I couldn't do that in 3 seconds. I briefly mentioned the video they play when you get something wrong, but I just want to dedicate an entire portion to the video real quick. When you get something wrong, there's a surge of negative emotion that coincides with this. On tests, quizzes, assignments, if these ever really mattered to you, you felt it. Every wrong answer feels like a punch in the gut and you, for the lack of a better word, feel worthless. That's the pressure and anxiety that comes with completing questions. Whether or not you've experienced that is subjective, of course, but I know it's a common feeling. The video that plays is nothing less than a slap in the face to students that are actually struggling with the concepts. Despite being a fluency site, and I wouldn't really say this is a fault of the site, schools use this website as a substitute for actual teaching. I've definitely experienced having learned something halfway and then being thrown to the wolves. Then when it all comes crashing down because you never truly learned anything, you're more often than not blamed for the shortcomings of your so-called teacher, when really some teachers are just glorified babysitters. Before I get canceled, it's not all teachers. I've had some amazing teachers who have given me the tools necessary to succeed, but I've also had horrible teachers. Unknowingly, the video creates a strong duality between failure and anxiety, and don't let you actually know the answer to the question. Something that I realized that I couldn't really recognize when I was younger was a child's necessity for application. When I say that, I mean a child will apply negative emotions to a task seemingly much faster than positive emotions. Now don't quote me on that, I'm not a psychologist, but I do recognize patterns. I see that kids often respond quite poorly to repetitive, unengaging assignments, which is something that is difficult to voice at a young age. But as you get older and look back on these memories, you see learning as an experience not filled with wonder and curiosity, but rather anxiety, irritation, and anger. Instead of looking back on these memories fondly, you look in a black tinted view, leading to students feeling less and less excited to learn as the years go on. That's the reason so many of us feel as though iExcel and iReady were the worst of the worst. I mean, they were, but it's so much more serious than just that. They fundamentally changed the way learning is viewed, and very quickly at that. iExcel has only been around for 27 years, and the oldest person a part of Gen Z is about 28. Do you see my point? Gen Z's experience with XtraMath has seemed to be all but negative. Not every website we've had to use has been the worst thing on the planet. Khan Academy, cough cough, wink wink, was an interesting website. I'd say it's leagues better than a lot of the sites we see, though Khan Academy has its own set of problems. I'll save that for another day, which makes me wonder why these sentiments aren't more widely reported. If students are genuinely having trouble adapting to and using the site, for what purpose is it still being used? I've seen so many comments saying that XtraMath sucks. I mean, this video is the result of a poll that I made, and the vote was overwhelmingly clear. I guess slow progress is good progress. Hopefully something changes soon. I want to shout out a couple of my subscribers on the channel. None of this would be possible without the love and support that each and every one of you have been giving me. As I've said before, the support has been overwhelming, and I'm honestly honored to have been given the opportunity to have our voices heard. It's been really fun so far, and I'm looking forward to making these videos for as long as necessary. School is one of the weirdest places I've ever had to go to, like hands down, no debate. It's genuinely not even a competition. They feed you undercooked food that has questionable origins, shove information that may or may not be true in your face, and tell you, hey, get ready to become an adult. Now you're walking across the stage and getting handed your diploma, about to head to whatever post-secondary option you choose, and all of a sudden you think to yourself, man, was school ever that good? Well, the answer is no. Not really, but there was some good sprinkled in there. If you don't know what Class Dojo is, on one hand, I feel happy for you. On the other hand, I feel bad. Class Dojo single-handedly ruined the weeks of so many kids out there. I remember when it started being used in my schools, and goodness gracious, I have never, and I mean never, seen crash outs like I saw back then. Class Dojo uses a point system that teachers can either add, deduct, or leave comments to a student's character. When I tell you it got serious about those points, it got serious. Like to the point teachers were giving students little tasks to complete in order to earn points. The points were usually given out based on behavior and overall participation. But if the teacher's class was a little dirty, they give you a point to incentivize the task. Thinking back on it, the teacher just wanted to get out of cleaning their room, but I can't complain. Those points were like a social status to us. This was like elementary school for me, so I didn't have a single real life problem to worry about yet. My days were spent outside all day. Until I got that Xbox. Yeah, it was up from there. Outside, man, let me load up this Fortnite. Class Dojo turned into a friendly competition amongst students. Whoever had the most points at the end of the week would get to win prizes and stuff. That was actually pretty cool. Like we had an entire little school store dedicated to those points. Elementary school was so lit, and so was Class Dojo, when you weren't losing points. Overall, Class Dojo sits in my mind as a distant but warm memory. Go Noodle is so strange, yet it's so invigorating. It feels like a fever dream whenever I think about it, and I mean, for good reason. We were watching a person in a moose costume doing children's line dances, but for some reason, Popsicle was able to completely override the outrageousness. Hey, I'm not complaining. I remember being so confused the first time my teacher put this on. I was lost, but intrigued at the same time. Like, you want me to get up and dance with this moose? And guess what I did? I sure did get up and dance with the moose. It was pretty much just a brain break. It even got to the point where they were replacing recess with Go Noodle. Indoor recess was honestly pretty cool. Can't say it be going outside, but it was pretty up there. After I left elementary school, I never really thought about this stuff. But now that I'm a bit older, it's kind of cathartic. I swear, you've never lived until you were caught between the decision to get up and dance or stay sitting down. I was a pretty reserved kid. Who am I kidding? I'm still pretty reserved. So when I did actually decide to stand up and dance, it was once in a while. But when I did, it was ridiculously fun. Kind of like brain pop. It makes you forget you're in school. Any worries you had just disappeared. Whether it was a test you just had taken or something entirely different. Go Noodle was the strangest thing I've ever had to use, but it's been cemented in my mind. Like, I really want y'all to think about it. What looks to be a 6-foot moose had us dancing and having the time of our lives. Wild when you think about it, but Barney exists, so I guess it's not that crazy. Before I continue this video, I just want to say thank you to the community and everyone who's ever given me a watch. It's appreciated more than you know, and I couldn't be more thankful. I've got a lot of plans for this channel heading into the future, and a lot of stuff I want to talk about. Again, thank you for tuning in, but anywho, back to the video. ABCYA was genuinely the peak of school. ABCYA, if you don't know, is an educational site that provides games based around, well, education. The games are separated by grade level, pre-K through 6th and up. I think ABCYA and Cool Math Games are right there at the exact same height, neck and neck and not even an inch above. There wasn't a single thing I ever did on this site that had anything to do with learning. I may have clicked on a math game once out of my entire time being a student. I'm sorry. Or rather, I'm not sorry. There was nothing like loading up ABCYA, clicking 6th grade plus, and going straight to the strategy and skills section. Obviously, it was during our free time. Exclusively during our free time and never any other time. I definitely didn't get caught on ABCYA and almost had my mom called. Nah, that didn't happen. Totally. ABCYA came in clutch when you were just sitting in your chair bored out of your mind, especially when you had actually finished your work, just sitting there staring off into space. No busy work and nothing to do. We were able to play so many games, it was ridiculous. Now, were all those games good? They were alright, but the games that were good were really good. They remind me of those really simple mobile games that work incredibly well, like Candy Crush and Fruit Ninja, stuff like that. We had the Dirt Bike games, 2048, Math, Basketball, Fact, Aqua Thief, Golf, Let Me Grow. It's funny because that's only the tip of the iceberg. These games are so iconic that I have them instilled in my mind, as if they were games on an actual console. Apparently, ABCYA got acquired by IXL Learning in 2018, which is interesting, to say the least. IXL as a site, I've got personal beef with. Judging by the sheer overwhelming discontent from the student community, I don't think I'm alone when I say some of these sites don't do what they're advertised to do. I'd hate to say it's about money, but I'd be lying if I said it was otherwise. The tech industry is booming right now, like booming, no metro. So I would only expect student experience would get pushed to the side in place of monetary gain. It makes sense. When I think about other stuff that we had to use, like iReady, I don't have good memories. All I can think about is that monotonous clicking of my mouse pad with no end. There's an emphasis placed on diagnostics and placing students in bubbles, making them into statistics. I guess that's how the world goes round, but what do I know? Before I wrap this video up, I want to talk about one more site. USA Test Prep just might be one of the single most boring websites I've ever had to use. I promise you, it's not even a competition. I thought iReady was boring, but this is dastardly. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, it's probably because USA Test Prep merged with Education Galaxy, becoming what is now known as Progress Learning, which is something I'll talk about more in another video. It's been such a long time since I've used this, but I can still remember what it felt like. If you don't know what USA Test Prep is, it's exactly what it sounds like. A website that's used to make students practice test taking, with the single most repetitive, mundane, and extraordinarily boring way of doing so. I've never seen anything like it. It's so boring to the point where you'd rather count individual granules of sand. I'd rather listen to the most monotone teacher teach me how to do derivatives than ever do this again. You just sit there answering questions over and over again. If this was something that was only used for tests, no big deal. A necessary evil, if you will. But no, this was something that was used on a fresh Monday morning straight off of the weekend. The test already sucked as it was, and this sorry excuse for practice surely didn't help. In order to truly create beneficial ed tech, as it's called, the students have to be at the forefront of the experience, not what teachers think students need. For one, not everyone learns the same. I wouldn't say students crying and genuinely having breakdowns due to some of how this stuff works is a sign of progression. If you think I'm exaggerating, I urge you to go read the comments on my iReady and IXL videos. Matter of fact, just look at what these students are saying about these highly praised websites. Mind you, this is stuff that's been used for years. All we're doing is destroying the already destroyed education system. I'm gonna be real for a second. We went through an entire pandemic as a society. This is something that affected everyone at the same time in wildly different ways. It destroyed social interaction amongst students and has caused what seems to be irreversible damage. Don't get me wrong, there will always be some antisocial kids. Again, I was one of them, but now it's almost as if it's been amplified. Everyone is just staring down at their phones, even the teachers. What a great time to be a student. But anywho, enough yapping. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way out here to the end, yeah, you have some dedication, and Yeah, thank you. Truly, like I said early in the video, I appreciate y'all more than you could possibly know. I wouldn't be here in this position to be able to make a video like this, even if it is just a compilation, without y'all. So thank you.